Good morning, Brian.
Hi, Haley. How are you today?
I am wonderful, and I'm so happy to speak to you today.
Yes,
Been a while.
it's been a little while, and I have you to myself today,
Yes, we just
which
get
is
to chat with each other.
we do, which is nice to do occasionally. So, Haley, my spiritual guide, August Gold, recommended to me two books by a woman named Jan Fraser. Could you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so what Jan Fraser does, the two titles are The Freedom of Being at Ease with What Is and the Great Sweetening Life After Thought. And I'd love to talk with you about this premise, which is that we have two selves, and I know that we have our higher self and we have our egoic self. And I know that, but her thinking on the egoic self has me really, really thinking, because she said it's just a construct. I mean, who you are and who you think you are is a construct. You created all of it. Your parents obviously gave birth to you, but how you reacted to everything in your life, it doesn't necessarily mean that was what happened. It's how you interpreted it because of different experiences. So all of who you are right now, all of the judgments are maintained by thought, right? And I know that I'm a constant thinker. I just boom, 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 all the time. And so the only way, she said, to know the higher self is to totally be in the moment without thought. That thought is the enemy of the higher self, because as soon as you think, then you're going back to the egoic self. Share with me, if you would,
I think, first of all, the synchronicity of it, I think, is beautiful. I've been very much bombarded with very similar messages. Michael Singer, who wrote The Untethered Soul, is releasing a new book next month. So he's been sort of having a podcast to introduce the book. And a lot of his teachings are about sort of being able to create a better relationship with the mind, the thinker. And then I've also been very much drawn to Sufism, especially Shams Tabriz and Rumi. And their teachings are very much of love and kindness and compassion. For me, and what resonates with me and sort of the teachings that come my way, is very much about creating a loving and compassionate relationship with your mind, realizing that the mind is you. I do believe that everything we think of is based off of a perception. So when you look at trauma is not just the event, it's how we perceived the event, what we chose to hold on to. And then from there, we've just sort of built up. So the actual trauma is sometimes very different from the actual event, because of how we just continue to be in the mind. I think it's unfortunate that in the education system today, there is no teachings on how to create that relationship with your mind, or how to have a tool or a system in place to manage the mind and keep the mind organized, focused. The mind also being the ego. I think if we use words like enemy, we're immediately trying to separate out the mind and saying, I am not the mind. At that point, I think we're fighting with ourselves, and don't even worry about what you're thinking. Be more concerned that you have a conflict within you. Our mind is necessary. Everything that we have with us is absolutely necessary. Our mind is there so that we can enjoy this experience. So we can be present and think with an organized mind how beautiful this is. those words, gratitude, comes from a thought that is in your mind. It's a message that comes from your heart saying, I'm fulfilled. The mind interprets that to, I'm grateful. If you cut off the mind, how are you managing the experience?
I think, I think as, the Buddha talked about the middle way. And I think this is about not creating dramas that will keep you from ever experiencing your higher self. As an example, last night, Ray said something to me as I was heading out the door with the dog, and it was something that I didn't like, something that I started to spin my wheels about. And I thought to myself, okay, look, you have the option to sit and for the entire walk, think about, why that wasn't the right thing to say, or you can let it go and let the whole thing go and be aware of Lincoln and the moon and the feel of the sidewalk underneath your feet. That's where, those are the memories that you hope to have when you die. Have I really lived? Have I really been in the moment? Or has my whole life been a construct? Because I'm Irish, I need to do this, or because my grandmother was Italian, I need to cook this way, or because, and then you go to your grave and you don't get a blue ribbon for it. Go ahead.
For me, that's all about truth. Your higher self is the truth, is supposed to be the truth. If you believe in your higher self, you believe in love, you believe in light, you believe in the truth. And for me, it's the quest of being in the truth of the moment. And exactly what you're saying, if somebody says something and you perceive that, it is your choice to go on that story, to bring yourself back, being able to say, is it true? 9 times out of 10, it's not true. So what is true? Being present is true. Is the moon in front of you? Yes, it is. Are your feet on the ground? Yes, it is. Is there anything going on around you right now that is truthfully looking to destroy you? And I think often that's being present, is being able to be present with the truth and to return to the truth and be able to say, that's not true. What is in front of me, what I'm touching, what I'm feeling, what I'm smelling is the truth.
And so the word true for you means more than just, is it an accurate interpretation? I think what is true also takes in what filters are you using to look at this. There are people, and I'm not happy with it, but there are people in whose presence I just don't feel comfortable. I feel I need to leave. And I ask myself, well, what's that about? Because I do believe, Hayley, that we are all connected, that we're all one being, that you're my sister, and that the only thing that's separating you and me are our stories, right? And the outer shell, that ultimately you and I are equals on the journey. And so this person who repels me is also my brother, and pardon me, and is me, yes, is me. And that's a tough one to remember.
It's a tough one.
But so I asked myself, so why are you having such a strong reaction to this person? What's that about? And of course, today's wisdom says, well, there's something about yourself that you see in him that you don't like. Okay, that's okay, but what do I do with that? Other than reflect on the fact that maybe that's something I need to work on.
And I think, do you have to work on it? Or can you just recognize it and realize that that's a different perspective and they're entitled to that perspective? Let it go. let it go. Again, the book that I'm reading last night, it's Shams of Tabriz, and it is based on Islam. And in that, Shams Tabriz, who was, I think, over 800 years ago, wrote this book. All this book was written off his teachings. And his greatest lesson in there is that the lesson all of the prophets were trying to teach was, bring me a mirror. It's the most important lesson. So I think when we look at the mirror, and in this case, it's a different human being with a different set of perceptions that really trigger you or me, being able to look at the mirror and say, what about this do I not like about myself? Is it worth analyzing, or can I just say, it doesn't matter, I choose love?
Right. Yes.
I think sometimes we get so wrapped up in trying to figure things out, trying to fix things, trying to understand things, that separates us and pulls us out of being present. I don't know if we're supposed to be fixing every single little thing. I think sometimes the fix is simply, I choose love. If I don't like that part about me, what happens if I just give it love?
I think, from staying with us, that every morning Ray and I read a passage from the Tao, and I read a passage from the Wu Wei, and both messages are parallel, which is don't interfere, leave things alone, and also don't try to imitate the holy people of the past. They've had their experience. This is your experience. This is your time. I sent you a column I wrote about, I'm not 24. It's their turn to be 24. I'm 74. What does that feel like? What is that? And so the Tao and the Wu Wei basically say, be observant, but don't meddle.
Mm-hmm.
And especially don't meddle in the affairs of others.
Absolutely. And I think if you look at, again, all of the religious scriptures where they have the commandments, don't mess with other people's business.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put yourself in the business of being in other people's business, because you're not going to have a good life. In terms of, you're not going to feel good for your life, and things aren't going to be great because people are not going to really want to be around you, and you're always going to be meddling. And I think it's tough to be on that path where you're saying it's not my business, so I'm not going to get involved, because people take that as a judgment, and they take it as a self-righteous judgment. And their response is usually attacking. They would rather, pull you down to their level than be like, oh, maybe I should try that. So I think it's really tough to hold your ground and the courage to be able to say, I'm not getting involved.
And that doesn't mean that if somebody falls, you don't pick them up, or if somebody's hungry, you don't give them a loaf of bread, but you don't make their happiness your life work and then die and realize that you've lived your whole life for others, and you've never even looked in the mirror. You don't know who you are.
I don't know if I told you the story, but a couple of weeks ago, I was going to Walmart, and there's always stray dogs around, and there's always people that are wanting to be in that place of, there's a stray dog, I need to save it. And so this person had got the massive bag of dog food and put dog food out, and the dog came over, smelt the dog food, walked away. And I think it was such a wonderful metaphor of exactly what you're saying. Did the dog say I was unhappy being on the street?
Yes. We project our feelings onto others.
Yeah.
You must be miserable.
Yeah.
You must be angry. Aren't you angry?
Or if you're not angry, then you're being self-righteous, or you haven't done any work. It's really tough right now, I think, because the world is very polarized. and there is an enormous amount of judgment, and there's an enormous amount of collective encouragement for judgment.
Mm-hmm.
So to try and be that sort of beacon in your own swim lane without having to explain it is a lot of effort right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if you look at your emails, the ones that are political, looking for money, they know that the best way to get your attention is to talk about something awful the other side did, and get you angry enough that you feel like, I've got to do something about this. Here's $100 or whatever. And it's a constant bombardment. The news, whenever you read the news, the lead stories are always the most outrageous things.
Outrageous, awful.
And
the language is awful.
It's hard not to be in that moment. It's hard to step aside. That doesn't mean, again, that you don't have feelings or that you're not going to do what in your own way you feel is useful. It just means that you're not going to take your orders from someone else on how to be useful and what you ought to be. And so, this is, you talk about the hero's journey, going back to our original message. In this conflict that we are experiencing, this polarization, many of us are being called out of it, right? The hero's journey is being called out to face a challenge and then to come back, right? Having faced the challenge. Well, a huge challenge today is not getting sucked into partisanship and having your own thoughts about something. It's stopping a conversation at the dinner table that is just negative energy, and saying, because you risk, each time you do it, you risk others thinking of you as either higher, you think too highly of yourself, so what are you going to do? Let the people in the Ukraine just die? It's there's shaming that can go on.
The shame. Oh, it's, yeah.
And
words don't change the world. Behaviors do. Behaviors do. And behaviors are generated by thinking.
Right.
So
love the world.
Love changes the world, and being in a place where you choose love over anything else is, for me, is the way that I want to live my life and what I consider a peaceful path. I don't, having thoughts about where the world should be and what is the right thing to do, hopefully that would generate somebody to say, is this true? How do we know what the right thing to do is? How do we know that the politicians are not doing the right thing? We don't know. And I think it goes back to meddling in other people's business. If you want to be an advocate for refugee rights, make sure that you fully understand what it is to be a refugee. Make sure you fully understand the policies around refugees, the borders, it's very, very complicated to be able to speak about this in any forum. And if you don't have that level of awareness, you shouldn't be speaking.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a lot of armchair quarterbacks at the moment.
We have what?
A lot of the armchair or the couch quarterbacks. That have very little experience in the actual things that they're speaking of, and are dictating what is the right way. And I think the people that actually have experience and actually would possibly have something worth saying are being drowned out by the noise.
Or they're afraid to say it because they won't get reelected.
Yeah.
You know, there's so many people whose behavior is dictated by the fear of losing their job, right? Losing their status.
Mhm.
That's where the spiritual path really helps, because you know to ask yourself, well, how important is this thing I'm afraid of losing? If I lost it, would I no longer be me?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I'd no longer be Senator me, but would I still be me? And if I were to die soon, is it important to me that the story has been kept pure and that I've made it clear who I am? Or is it better to know who I am and not care what the obit says in the New York Times, right? That's one of the things that I often ask friends is, what would you like the first sentence of your obit to say? Because that's what we're invested in, you know, right?
Which is the outcome.
And what's the outcome?
That is the outcome. If we're invested in what people think about us and what our legacy will be, then we are very egotistical. We are feeding that part of our mind that is constantly worried about, what do they think? What's the right thing? Am I doing the right thing?
Right. And the other thing, Hayley, is after all these years, you know, of doing the work that I do, if I say or do this one thing, am I going to lose all of the people who have supported me? You know, the decisions we make about continuing the story, maintaining the story, right? That's what separates us from our higher selves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so the only way we're going to know that, somebody else can't tell us that.
Mm-mm.
We have to know it ourselves. That's
that's a feeling. Like that.
Yeah.
Knowing starts from a feeling where it's just like, you know,
this doesn't
are you
feel
happy?
Right. Yeah.
And giving up and losing things because you make a choice of what you think is better for you at that point in time, it's difficult. It's hard. I would have to say that in my experience, over several, almost 2 decades now, maybe more, 2 decades, maybe more now, everybody that has shared their story of having to give up something or being afraid of losing something but going for it anyway, they've never regretted it.
Well, that's you and I. That's you and me. You know, you were on Wall Street and it wasn't a good fit. It wasn't right. It wasn't you.
Well, and I think it's, you know, I'll give you
money.
Yeah, an even simpler metaphor of this is when I moved from Merida and came here, I noticed that a lot of my stuff didn't come with me. So my makeup bag didn't come.
Oh.
My short sleeve t-shirts, don't know where they are.
Oh.
And I have a couple, you know, favorite short sleeve t-shirts that like have been with me on every trip, where when I cut down, I'm like, this one's not in the cutout pile. They're gone.
They never got delivered.
I don't know where they are. I packed up all of my stuff. I checked, every drawer was empty. Somewhere along the line, I either pulled them out or I left them. Don't know where they are, but I certainly do not have them with me now. And I think even there, you know, it doesn't have to be this massive sort of material loss. It can be even small material losses, like a t-shirt, where
Yes.
you're just like, man, what happened with that? I really want to wear that today. And I really wanted it. Now I'm really upset that I can't find it. Now I'm going to get mad at myself because I'm like, how could you like forget to pack up your own stuff? But But I think it's, at the end of the day, when you come back to what we were talking about, being present and being truthful, is my life today fundamentally awful because I don't have my t-shirt? No. My life, if I sit today and ground in my body and look around me, it's just as beautiful, maybe more.
Mm-hmm. For whatever reason, whatever feelings the t-shirt created, you now are liberated to create new feelings and a different t-shirt.
Yeah, and I think that's the measure of success now, is how quickly can you come back to being present? How quickly can you come back to being grateful for what's in front of you and being in the truth of, do I have everything I need right now? Yes. And if I'm worried about if I'm going to have everything I need next month, that's not for me to worry about right now. I have no idea what's going to happen between now and next month. I can only be very present with right now.
Right this moment.
Right this moment. So there for me is that choice of the truth. Let me choose the truth. Let me choose what's the most important thing for me right now, which is to be in the truth of, are you okay? Yes, I'm okay. Your mind's telling you you've got all this stuff to worry about. And what if this goes wrong? And what if this person gets mad at you? Da, 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 da. Is any of that true? No. What if they do get mad at me? That's not for me to fix. That's for me to simply come back to that question of, am I doing what's most important to me now? And we very rarely speak about how that benefits not only yourself, but everybody else. Mm-hmm. When we do the thing that is most important to us right now, we're grounded, our heart opens, we're calmer, we're in a far more loving space. That benefits anybody that might get mad at you. They might, when they come up against you, they'll be like, I feel like I should be mad at you, but I don't know why. Letting it go.
The mind can help us understand the foolishness of it all. But this, Jan Fraser will say, but the real truth comes from your higher self in the moment. For instance, if I can give you an example, some people worry about being remembered. What's my legacy, right? Mm-hmm. Will the building be named after me? And they live their life for that legacy. And I was thinking, these people who had statues of themselves in parks all around the country, they've been pulled down. The statue of them has been pulled down and melted. So there goes your legacy, because most of us can't remember, right? We don't know. I mean, I meet people who don't know who Anita Bryant is, and she was huge in my generation as an anti-gay crusader, but other people don't know who she is. So much for her reputation, right? So much for mine. If I live to be more than a footnote in the history books, then I'm living my life for other people. And the reality is that in one generation, they won't remember any of the names.
History is a very interesting thing. History is a perception. Mm-hmm. So I think if you are focused on legacy, you're focused on what people will think at the end. For me, that's always a first reminder to say, well, you're no longer present. If you're so concerned about how it's going to end up, you're not present. You're not even aware that you're on a path or any path. History, as we know it today, is somebody else's perception of what happened. Mm-hmm. And I think bring me the mirror is so important, because when we can sit back and say, use our mind to be able to laugh at those moments where we're like, I just went on a crazy wild goose chase, but I brought myself back. I can laugh at it and be like, interesting perception. Let me try a different perception now.
Mm-hmm. And it takes practice.
It takes practice. That is the effort of living.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you start to realize what a privilege it is to have that moment, what a privilege it is to have a functioning mind that is more than willing to be on this journey with us. And it wants to be happy. And if you can change your perception to say, find the beauty, find the beauty. All I want my mind to do is go chase the beauty, go nuts chasing the beauty. And when I see something awful, my mind gets to be able to say, oh my God, something's about to happen. That's when I step in and I'm like, remember, we're aligned. Is this for me to fix? Is it for us to jump in and start saying this is our story now? So we need our minds to be active participants in this journey. It's our responsibility in our heart to be aligned with our higher self, to keep looking for those different perceptions. Does this perception feel good? Does this perception feel good? And sometimes that comes in the form of other humans and other beings and other plants. You can go past a plant and be like, that's the most offensive smelling plant ever. It might think it smells beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Who's right?
Right. Even with your example, I might love the smell of lavender or lilac or jasmine, and other people might find it offensive.
Yeah. And it will trigger them straight into like rage.
Yeah. I don't, I'm sensitive to smells. Get that out of the house, please. So, and then we have to make a decision. All right, how much time you want to spend with this person? Who doesn't want to have.
Yeah. And I think in that decision, it sometimes is the right decision to say, this is not the best place for me.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you can look at a person or a being and realize that their perception is different from you and it triggers you, it doesn't mean you have to suffer and sit in it and deal with it. You have the choice to say, this is disturbing me. It's disturbing me greatly. I'm going to move myself away.
Right. Right. Rather than try to change the person or the situation so that you're comfortable in it, you move on. You step out of the way. Thich Nhat Hanh, talked about just step out of the way. If you see it coming, move and let it pass you, because once it passes.
Yeah, and I think when you reflect in that, why was I so disturbed? Again, you don't need to sit and suffer and go into a dark night of the soul trying to figure out why you were disturbed. Sometimes you were disturbed because you yourself questioned your truth. You looked at that person and said, they must be right. They must be better than me, so I need to change who I am to fit them. That's incredibly disturbing. And sometimes that's a very quick decision. Did I just question my own truth and my own heart? Yeah, I did. Stepping out of the way, carry on.
It can be a lonely journey. The hero's journey can be very lonely, because if you're not in the company of others who are making the journey or who have made the journey and understand what you're doing, then you may be surrounded by people who think you're nuts. I'm sure there were people who thought you were nuts.
Oh my God, people think I'm in a cult, which is a party of one. Again.
Yeah.
It's hilarious. I don't think it's lonely. I don't think it's a lonely journey. I think loneliness is not the journey of self. Loneliness is the journey of, when you encounter loneliness, I think it has a lot more to do with more concerned with what outside people are thinking and what's going on outside of you. And my perception has changed on the whole alone versus loneliness in terms of the spiritual journey. I can understand how some people will say it's a lonely path. I think because very early on, you're going through that process of redefining lonely and alone and one. When you're able to fully grasp the concept of what it means to be you and to be comfortable with being you, loneliness no longer comes into it.
I agree. I agree. I think as you were talking, I think the feeling of aloneness or loneliness is really based upon the constructed self.
Yeah.
Who says, where are other people like me?
And that measure of success too. Everybody will think I'm a failure if I have no friends.
Right.
Everybody will think I'm a failure if I'm sitting by myself. Who sits by themselves? They must have no friends. There must be something wrong with them.
And how we react to that, how we deal with that is really an indication of where we are on our path. Because
absolutely, yeah.
If we embrace the higher self, then our story becomes unimportant. And
very true. And I feel like in my experience, the further and further I get along the path, the further away the story gets too. You know,
she said that. Yeah, she said that.
My childhood, even my banking career, I'm just like, that's so like, that's not now. This is now.
Yeah.
It's a lot of luggage, which I don't carry around anymore. I'm just like, yeah, that happened, but it's all the way back there. If you want to go look at it, go for it, but I'm not going to go there with you. So just going back to the loneliness and the alone, the spiritual path, you are alone a lot of the time because you actually enjoy it. And your relationships change because they become much deeper and more profound. So you don't have time for so many people. You only have time for a few people that you really are interested in being able to know, and that's reciprocated. If you look at the people that have tons and tons of friends and value their selves based on how many friends they have, how deep are those relationships? Do they have time to nurture every single one of those relationships?
And do they have time to nurture themselves?
Right.
If you're constantly setting the table, decorating it for the arrival of others, you have no time to look in the mirror and say, is this really what I want?
And
who is this person?
Who is this person? And I found too, the further that I go, even the people that I'm not deeply connected with, just people that I will meet one-off, they get a much better version of me, a much deeper. Their connection with me is far more authentic and deeper than 10 years ago. So like 10 years ago, if somebody met me, they would get a very sort of shallow. It would have been, hey, how are you? Great, nice to meet you. Oh, that's it. That's the end of it. I found that when I leave people now, there's always the question, how do I get in touch with you? Can we keep in contact? And it doesn't mean that I have to keep in contact. I think it's just one of those things where you notice those subtle little shifts where it's like, we really connected.
Yes, we're going to have a guest in a few weeks who I met for coffee yesterday, first time, and we sat for 3 hours.
Oh wow, how lovely!
3 hours at the coffee shop, and I could feel the transformation going on in our relationship. We connected at a level that was not about what we've done and what we've accomplished. We told each other details of our lives, but that's not where we connected. And from the beginning, he held my hand on the table. He was very tactile, rubbing my hand. And in the beginning, I thought, okay, I'm going to leave it there because it means something to him to be able to do this. And I don't want to pull it away. By the end, the touch was intimate, not intimate in terms of attraction.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
But suddenly the touch became really meaningful and important.
Yeah.
Have you had that, a similar experience?
I've had interesting experiences with that, which blow my mind. And I have to remind myself, some things you don't have to figure out. You can just appreciate that you felt it and you were present with it. But I've had a few experiences where it started off just like, oh, I'm touching this person. Like, do I have to? To then moving into a place where you're just like, well, I'll just be fully present. And I know I'm safe. Like bringing the mind back, like, hey, we're still safe. We're fine. And it's turned into this amazing exchange of pure energy. And it's made me like, for me, that's the rapture of joy. When you feel that like pure exchange of energy, and there's nothing funky about it. There's no sneaky intentions. Like, I don't even know if many people even know that energy is passing between them. But I think that's when we're truly being energetic souls. That's when the souls are connecting. And sometimes
it's hard to find words to describe it.
It's really hard. It is hard. And again, it's, the last time it happened to me, I just started like laughing. I had the biggest smile and I was just like, this is the best thing ever. This person is like one of the purest, sweetest people. And then I looked at him and I was just like, you know what? I would never have even allowed myself the opportunity to get anywhere near you because of the way you look. But right now, just in this random, like, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that now we have to go and get married or we're soulmates. It's just in this moment, I chose to be present. I don't know if you're fully present, but I'm feeling the God essence, like the source that is in our hearts, like flow between two beings. And you know what? It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
It's not opinionated or anything.
Our souls dance with the other person's soul while we're there. Our angels are laughing together and applauding because they're so excited about the connection.
It's hard to explain, but it absolutely exists. And I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I love it. And the first time it happened, I was like, that's freaky. And I was really worried about them feeling it as much as I felt it. And I was like, oh my God, what if they, like, that's really weird. And then, like, as I felt it more, it's just really, again, random people. You don't walk up and like, I'm going to feel you. I have no idea when it's going to happen. But sometimes it just happens and it's the best. Like, it's pure love.
In the beginning, for me, there's an awareness that there are people around you possibly looking. And then you get to the point where you don't care.
Yeah.
They're gone. They're not even there. This is just happening between us. It's not sexual. It's intimate. And, it's funny, Hayley, we started off talking about growing up in Detroit. He was born the same year, grew up in Detroit where I grew up. So the facts of our stories took up a lot of the first hour, maybe. And then, we started moving into experiences that we had, like the body electric or, tantric breathing or whatever. And it was like a spiral, like we were together moving up like a tornado, going up and up and up and up and up without being aware of it or being aware of the time.
It's being free.
Just letting go. It was quite something. And not, it doesn't have to be duplicated. I don't think it can be duplicated. Not with that person, because
I don't think
when
it
you
can
go
be
look,
managed.
yeah, you can't.
You can't manage it, because the first time it happened, I thought it was special. And I mean, it is special, but I thought it was just between me and that person. So it must be a special connection. It must mean something. And as much as I tried to like meditate and get into it, and it never happened again. And I don't even know if they ever felt it as deeply as I did. But I think it's one of the things where you just have to fully surrender. And it's not, again, mental. You're not surrendering your mind. You're just leaning back into the comfort of that energy. And the more you lean back, the more you go.
Mm-hmm. And the less conscious you are of it.
Yeah.
The deeper you go.
But you're also super aware. Like you were saying, you know that where you are, you know that there are people around you, you know that there's life moving around you. But in this specific moment, you're 100% present with that person.
Right. Right. Your mind isn't wandering.
Yeah. It's a very interesting energetic place. I think Paulo Coelho calls it the Aleph. I think the Chinese call it the Qi. That sort of container of energy where two souls meet and dance.
Yes. And the word container keeps coming up over and over again. I don't know who started it, but it's, boy, a lot of people.
I think it's a trendy word.
Yeah, it's a good word, because it talks about, I think, holding what's there. It's happening within this non-material energy field, maybe. Is that what you feel?
You're not doing anything to do it or create it or to hold it. Right. You're just literally being vulnerable enough to say, show me more.
Yeah.
I'll be along for this as long as it can go. And, sometimes it's 3 hours, sometimes it's 5 minutes. But that feeling is profound.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can fully explain that feeling. Like, I don't know if there are words that exist in English that explain that connection. Yeah.
It's hard to have happen at a dinner party or at a some sort of function, because people interrupt, and the person doesn't have the time to stay with you, but you have the desire for it.
And I wonder if other people see it. If you're at a dinner party and it happens, do other people observe it and like, what's going on with those two? Or is it invisible to them?
I think people do. If they spot it, there's something magical about it. You can get jealous of it.
Yeah.
But often you'll get pulled aside by a friend who says, what was that all about? Are you interested in her?
Well, now I am.
No. Just, we had an amazing conversation that touched me, and touched her. It was amazing.
And I think, when we talk about the spiritual path and the things that change and sort of make you feel isolated or look isolated, is because connections change. And when other people look at it, their immediate inclination is to romanticize it. Whereas if you're in it, that doesn't even enter your mind. You're just like, there's nothing romantic about this. This is not, Shakespearean. This is far beyond that. And I think, again, trying to, when we talk about trying to get at other people's business, it's not for me to explain what I just experienced. If somebody wants to look at that and say, oh my God, you guys have connections, I am at the point now where I'm just like, you can think that.
Yeah. The question will be, do you want her number?
Yeah. Oh, he really likes you.
No, I don't. Yeah, no, I don't need it. What we had was
more than I ever wanted right there.
More than I expected to get at this party. I didn't want to come to this party, but I'm going home with this gift, which was great. I haven't gotten near the food table. I haven't gotten the drink. And I
But
don't care.
I'm full, you know?
Right.
And I
Right.
think, I always used to wonder about sort of those very devoted people to the path where they can literally survive on fresh air. And their bodies do well. I mean, they're skinny, but they're still very functioning, healthy people. And I think it's because they're connecting into that divine energy, which is that full connection of the higher self, where that energy is rejuvenating, it is regenerating. Because, like you say, when you connect into that, nothing else matters. You're not hungry anymore. You're not thirsty. You're not even your mind is just I just want to stay here.
Yeah. Yeah. Your mind isn't thinking about going home. It's just,
no. And I think in doing a lovely big circle back, that is the place our mind always wants to go to. Even when it's being crazy, it's trying to steer us back into that space. So if we can be responsible and be not that way, all we have to do is sit.
Right.
The mind will be more than happy to be great, that's where I want to be.
And the hope is that the other person understands that this moment is what it was. And that
that's such an interesting question. I wonder this myself.
Yeah.
I wonder how much of what I'm experiencing, if they are what is their perception of it?
Right. And will they misinterpret?
And will they be afraid of it? Will they think? The last time it happened, I tried to get in touch with a couple of my sort of what I consider spiritual gurus, and they were just stop questioning it. Doesn't matter. I'm yeah, I know it doesn't matter, but
yes.
What do you think they think? What's the other side of this? And
can't know.
It, again, don't be getting in other people's business. It's not your business to know how they feel. It's your business to know how you feel.
Yeah. The Tao will say the master leads without doing. Right. So you're leading spiritually without needing to do anything, right?
You're being. The doing is in the being.
You have the experience and you treasure it. And
what
maybe
a wonderful experience.
Yeah. Which I had never anticipated.
I don't think, in my experience, I've never been able to be oh, that's somebody I'm going to have that connection with. It's always been a lovely surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, we'll have them on the program.
We'll have them on the program. We'll see. But again, no expectations, because again, I've run into people and it's never happened with them again. So
yeah.
Fun. Well, I hope that you have many more experiences of being in that energy.
Thank you. Me too. And you know.
Thank you.
I think part of what this podcast is for the both of us is just an opportunity to continue to dance, right? I mean, we can get stuck on a subject, but when we start to dance, the energy, you can feel the energy and the connection.
When we come back to the truth.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful dance.
Well, for me, I mean,
what? This is the hero's journey. The hero's journey isn't always dark night of the soul and always trying to fix and unravel out of trauma. The hero's journey is dancing. Mm-hmm. And you should be dancing more than you're sitting.
Mm-hmm. Well, the soul wants to dance. It has a song.
And the mind wants to be in tune with that.
Right. Wants to be in charge.
It wants to be in tune with that. It wants to be able to be I found what we're looking for. I'm relaxing. I'm off duty.
Okay. Yeah, the mind. We need the egoic mind in order to function.
We need to love it, man.
But we don't need to be. let our life be dictated by accumulated thoughts that have created a story about us, and we don't know what to be if we're not that story.
I'm trying to remember who the wonderful person was that said this. If I remember, I will put it in the comments of the video. But a wonderful person wrote that we are, just like we have guides in the ethos, we are in our heart the guide for our mind. And our guides would never say, oh, Hayley, you're such an idiot. You're the enemy of this for thinking that way. So in being a guide for our mind, we always guide it with love.
Yes.
Hey, hey, careful where you're going. It's going to be a rough trip back.
Yeah.
You really want to go that way.
Yeah. I have for a long time been really tough on myself. I make a mistake and well, that was really stupid. You know, why did you do that? And I'm learning to stop it. You know, stop it.
We are the guides of our mind. It's our responsibility.
Yeah.
And our mind will always, the minute we meet it with love, our mind will calm down. If we meet it with that judgment and that punishment, it's a quick spiral into crazy town.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, love.
Loving yourself.
Love is the answer.
How are we doing on time?
I think we're a little bit over, but I have this minute.
Okay.
I still just going to be waiting for my card.
Well, I love our
being present.
Being present. Yeah, me too. So I'll look for the schedule you're going to send me.
I will send the schedule.
And our next guest is going to be Michael Vita, who was on Broadway as a singer and a dancer, and is kind of my model of what becoming older should look like. He's
amazing. I can't wait.
Yeah, he lives with gratitude.
I can't wait. And I can't wait to see how our week shakes out.
Yep.
Can we be in that energy more?
Well, I feel it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, it is beautiful.
All right. A lovely week, and so nice
to talk to you
again.
Yeah.
Lots of love to you, to Ray, and to Lincoln, and we will speak soon.
Thanks. Take care, Hayley.
Bye.
Bye.